Evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning into our latest installment of BMC Movement Monday. So, tonight we are going to focus on what's your voting plan. We are 15, that is right, 15 days away from the election, and with so much at stake, we thought it was really important to hone in on what is your voting plan. And most certainly, as Black millennials, we are a very large voting block, and it's very important that we make a plan to vote. And so, how we wanted to start off the conversation is that we wanted to provide some basic tips to help all of you to ensure that your vote is being counted. So, we want to share a few tips, and then we're going to jump right into our amazing panel with some outstanding leaders from Georgia, Michigan, and that VA, Virginia, that's going to talk about why voting is important and also why making a voting plan is important. And also, even beyond the 2020 elections, why it's so critical and important that we make our voices heard and continue to work on and advancing equity in our communities. So, first up with the tips. So, we're going to pull up a little presentation and we're going to take you through really short to provide you with some tips. So, in thinking about making your voting plan, again, we want to thank our partners at the K-Poor Center and Black and Brown People Vote for their partnership on this. So, again, tips on making your vote count. So, some key things we wanted to highlight with that is one, when you think about making your vote count, how do you determine, right, your plan? Well, the next piece we're going to go to the next slide. You want to determine your method, right? First things first, check your registration status. That's very important. You want to make sure that you are registered at your current location, make sure you're actually in the system. So, first thing is check your registration. Next, you want to think about your method. Do you want to early vote, right? That's in person, mail in ballot, which is by mail, absentee, which is also by mail, or do you want to vote actually on election day? And for those that may be confused around like what's the difference between a mail-in ballot and absentee, mail-in ballot is that anyone who's a qualified registered voter can apply to do a ballot by mail. Absentee ballots are for those folks who may be out of the area on election day, have a disability or illness. Again, that's what an absentee ballot is for. And of course, you mail that in. So let's keep going. So after you've determined your method, right, the next piece you want to do is prepare. So it's important that you know where to vote, also, and what you are voting on. So you can request from your local board of elections, even from the state board of elections in your respective state, a sample ballot. And also, you want to review the candidates. Who are those folks that are running for office, not just at the federal level, but all the way down to the state and local levels? Also, there may be a ballot measure that's on the ballot in terms of a larger community wide issue or statewide. So you want to check for that. So you'll see that on the sample ballot. You also want to check to see where your polling place is and the hours of operation, whether you decide to vote early or on election day. For mail in ballots and absentee ballots, you have to apply. So, again, you want to apply first, check the deadlines, and if you are planning to mail your ballot or drop it off, you want to check to see where the ballot drop boxes are. I know here where I am in New York, the governor signed an executive order establishing ballot boxes, I think over 300 to be distributed across the state. So again, see where your ballot drop boxes are. And of course, you can always drop it off to the Board of Elections, your regional Board of Elections. And for early voting, check to see when it starts. Not every state has early voting. So again, you want to see if that's even an option in your area. And of course, just to reiterate, all this information and these resources are available through your local board of elections or state board of elections. So now that you've prepared, right, the next step we want to talk about is sharing, right? We want you to share your experiences and vote. So if you plan to vote in person, share if you need a ride. There's a lot of organizations that are providing rolls to the rides to the polls. Some folks are doing like roll to the polls, stroll to the polls. Find out in your area who are those community organizations, if you need a ride, that they can help you with that. You also want to share when you plan to vote. So, what day, what time, what method, also location. I often, when I go to vote in person, I actually plan to early vote. I typically would take, my niece or nephew with me so they can, learn early about the importance of voting. So again, make this a, group, opportunity to engage. It is so important. And last but not least, share your experience and encourage others to vote. This is so, so important. So, with that being said, we want to make this simple for you. And so, BMC, we have partnered with our organizational partner, Vote Run Lead and Motivote. So, some of the things that I've shared so far may feel like a lot to kind of manage. And so, we want to make this very simple. So, with Motivote, they actually make your voting plan very simple. So, what does that look like? So, first, what you'll do is you'll go to the website, which is motivote.link/BMC, and you make a pledge to vote. You create your own Motivote account. It takes less than a minute. All you do is put in your email and create a password for yourself, whether through Google or Facebook. The next thing you do after you make an account for yourself, go to the next slide, right? Check your email, confirm your account, right? And you'll see this message that says, hey, you're all set. Thank you for joining our team. And then you will start your profile by answering a few questions, such as, are you eligible to vote? They'll ask you for your location. And then next, you can set up election reminders. Again, it's really simple. And the other cool thing about it is that you get points for every action that you decide to take. So if you plan to early vote, if you are looking to invite others, which we encourage you to do, you'll see the prompt here that encourages you to invite 10 friends that you want to help to remind and take personal responsibility for making sure that they vote. The more points you accumulate, you actually earn an opportunity to win prizes from the prize store at Motivote. So again, once you do all these things, sign up for your election reminder, invite folks to join you in voting. You're officially a part of our BMC Motivote team. Yay, good stuff. All right. So again, we want to make this voting plan very simple for you. Again, it's so important with so much at stake in our communities. And so without further ado, we want to now go to our esteemed panel that's going to talk about why our vote is important, why making a plan to vote is important. And so I am going to introduce our panelists. I actually want them to kind of share who they are because I don't want to steal their thunder. Because when I tell you that the sisterhood is out here making it happen, okay, you can go on and Google them too. You're going to find all kinds of great work that they're doing. So, in no particular order, I'm going to start with my good sister, Stephanie Morales. Excuse me, the Stephanie Morales, okay, from the great state of Virginia. Sis, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, the Leah Webb. I am always happy to be with my sisters, um, and always happy to be with BMC, doing the amazing, amazing work of talking about the power of our vote. I am the elected Commonwealth attorney for the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. For those of you who are not in Virginia, that's the DA, a state's attorney, or your elected prosecutor, who's very much an advocate for restorative justice, for criminal justice transformation, and for decarceration and the end to mass incarceration. Um, I won't go too far because I know we're going to spend some time talking about this. But really, voting is our expression for our will of what our nation is going to become at the local level, at the state level, and nationally. And there's really nothing more important that we could be talking about right now than how to ensure that our voice and our power is put to work in this election cycle. So I'm glad to be here with you, ladies.
See what I'm talking about? Just go on and give all the snaps and just okay. That's what I said. Yes, yes. All right. Up next, I will go to our good sister, Miss Diajah Ruffin from the great state of Michigan.
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Diajah Ruffin. I'm 26 years old, graduated from Western Michigan University back in 2017. And since then, I've just dedicated my life to be a leader in our community. I've worked for the Michigan House of Representatives and Michigan State Senate. I was recently a candidate for state representative in Michigan. I'm a founding member of Black Women in Michigan Politics, a nonpartisan organization, and I'm the treasurer for the 13th Congressional Democratic Party. I would like to first just thank you all for allowing me to have this moment. I said, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I said, I'm going to be on the BMC panel. That was one of my goals because these are the people that I'm here to connect with, people that I know are doing the work, not only in my state, but across the country. So I thank you all and I look forward to this.
It's just all right. I just love it. Yes, sis, we are so happy to have you with us. Absolutely. Listen. I could go into more, but I'm gonna stay on. I'm gonna stay on target. But I appreciate y'all. Seriously. Last but by no means least, I would like to bring up our good sister, state representative from the great state of Georgia, Miss Park Cannon. Go and introduce yourself, sis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Park Cannon. Listen, when I was 23, I graduated college. It took me 5 years to get through because I had some stuff going on at home. But when I got out of college, I ran for office. I became elected at age 24 by putting together a completely grassroots campaign and was elected the youngest member of the Georgia House of Representatives. Now, what I really, really want people to know more than anything else is that elected officials, we're just like you. We have some ideas, we have some ability to do things, but at the end of the day, we have jobs, we have families, we have kids. And so we bring as much of ourselves to the table. And that means that here in Georgia, I bring a perspective as a birth worker, as someone who cares a lot about women and families, whether they want to keep their pregnancy or they don't. And that matters a lot to me and not to everyone else, that people get to choose however they want. And so just because I'm at the table, sometimes I get to talk. But there are so many other tables that we need filled with people just like you from BMC. So thank you for having me.
See, I told y'all in for a treat. I tried to give y'all the heads up, but I don't think folks was ready. All right. So my first question to this wonderful panel is right. So in reflecting upon your work, right, and you all are doing some incredible work in your respective states, and so thinking about what's happening on the ground now, you all are in some swing states, right? Georgia, Michigan, and Virginia. What are some things that you are seeing on the ground as it relates to Black voter access? Are there any challenges? What's at stake? You want to kind of lean in on that? Whoever wants to jump in first. Go ahead, Park. Okay.
Y'all, hot off the press. Last night, Albany, Georgia, my hometown, the place where Dr. King's failed movement, apparently, they put up a thing, but it was really the last piece of his Poor People's Campaign, remember in 63. Either way, that place, imagine, is South Georgia. It has not changed that much since the 60s. An elected official approached the ACLU and a bunch of other groups who were there watering the polls, meaning giving water to the people, with a handgun. There's now an arrest out for her warrant. A warrant out for her arrest because of that increased disturbance to the peace, as well as there were some minors. So what that really says to me about Georgia is the importance of having young people at the polls. When young people are there, differences happen. If someone does something that we know as adults, as folks over 21, as folks who have been voting for 40 years, as people who have been poll workers, we try to run through the immediate systems. Let me go talk to the poll manager. Let me go do this. But it's really a part of a larger culture of voter suppression that young people are becoming politicized too. And so the way that we're seeing in Georgia that we are combating this in-person hostility and suppression is we are voting by mail. 43% of Black voters voted by mail in the election we had here in August of 2020. The last time that there was an election in which there was a bunch of early voting was 6%, when Stacey Abrams was running. So think about that. 6% Black folks were voting by mail when Stacey was running, and you know we were out there doing our due voting, and we know she won. And now in August, it was 43%. So we already know that it's going to be more than that. And so in Georgia, we're really feeling like we want more people to have already requested their ballots and go ahead and send them in.
Wow, that's heavy and just mind blowing, right? And just a short time period, that jump. Wow. Thank you, Park, for sharing that. Diajah, Stephanie, what are y'all seeing on the ground in y'all respective states as it relates to Black voter access? Any challenges or what's at stake?
Well, I definitely seen in our state that the ballot boxes are working. It's just that now the integrity of the vote is at stake. And so what we're seeing is a lot with the absentee ballots. We're not sure if these ballots are being accounted for the right officials. And so I would say that I'm going into the polls to vote just so that I can know that my vote is going to count. I do understand the early voting, but I will encourage people that can go to the polls to do so, just because we want, even if you did do your absentee ballot, just to make sure that our votes are being counted, because there has been some discrepancies here in Michigan.
Wow. What about for you, Stephanie? What are you seeing on the ground in Virginia?
So Virginia is experiencing some differences this year in a positive way. There has been an expansion of the right to vote, which should have been in place all along, but kudos to our legislature for making positive change. We do have early voting for the first time without an excuse. So before, all we had was absentee early voting, where you had to have one of the excuses. Now we have early voting that is running through October 31st. And but with all good change comes some some things that we have to be aware of. So for my people who are paying attention in Virginia, if you have received a mail-in ballot and you choose to go in to vote in person early, you actually need to take that mail-in ballot in full. You can't just take the ballot itself. You have to have the envelope. You have to have the full thing. So there's a little bit of growing pains, but again, like any expansion of that voting right is a step away from voter suppression. So we are seeing, some good things, but also some challenges that we have to make sure that we address. We did have an outage of our voter registration system due to a quote unquote cut cable on the last day of early voting. And many of us raised our voices and said, no, this must be extended. And, New Virginia Majority, one of the organizations here, did sue and it was extended. So, we have seen some things happen, but Virginia is always about that life. And so people stood up and we, have seen some positive things come out of that, but you just have to stay alert. Like we really cannot go to sleep at any point. We too are preparing in case there are people showing up to intimidate voters. We're not here for that. I absolutely am here for criminal legal system reform, but if people are showing up to intimidate, I am going to prosecute to the full extent of the law on that. And then one thing is always, we are always concerned about access. Virginia is not a place where we have an excellent public transportation system. So we cannot move away from, in this COVID era and this technology era, we cannot forget that we have people who are going to need rides. We have people who are going to need us to assist them with access to going to vote. We have some people who are not fully versed on what's going on. We still need to be educating about specific issues, and how that ties into individuals in their everyday life. And again, one of the things education wise is making sure that people understand the importance of not just voting for the top of the ticket, but voting all the way down and paying attention to who's going to be on their school board, their city council, who's going to be their Commonwealth attorney, their senators, their delegates, they're the members of the House of Representatives and their senators. All of these things play a very important role in how your life is going to look going forward for the next, year, 4 years and beyond. So we just have to stay very alert and keep pushing to make sure that we cover all bases.
I appreciate all of y'all sharing just kind of what you're seeing on the ground. And I think it's important that regardless if you are in a swing state or not, that, sharing your story, what you're hearing, what you're experiencing, right? It's really important, especially for us as Black millennials, because I think oftentimes, folks kind of, take for granted, like, hey, I got this option because life happens, and it's like, oh, I'll just go do it tomorrow, right? When in fact, there's like some real challenges, and to your point, Stephanie, even with enacting policies to try to address the suppression, there's still kind of the devil in the details, right? Of making sure that we stay vigilant, to not get comfortable, because when we do, that's when things can kind of fall through that often are to our disadvantage as the collective. So that actually brings me to my second question, and that is, can y'all talk about your efforts on what you're doing? I know you were sharing kind of some of the things that are happening on the ground, but what are some things that y'all are doing as it relates to advancing Black voter access? So, what are some things y'all are working on, or whether it's organizations you're partnering with, or just some things that you're looking to do? Who wants to jump in on that first? I see you, Diajah. I saw your finger go to it.
Well, I would say the most thing that I think that I can do right now is just educating people about what it means to vote. Why should they vote a certain way, or why they shouldn't vote a certain type of way, or just letting them know that their vote matters, no matter who they choose to put a ticket into. Because at the end of the day, what the country wants is what's going to happen anyway. So it's like, at least put in your bid to say what you believe should happen. But of course, I'm a little biased within this journey because I've been doing some work on a particular side. And so with that, I know that there are great people in place that are Democrats to continue forward with not just what you believe to be someone, like a certain person's intuitions or their intentions with your life, as much as the full movement of what that looks like in every state, in every level of government, so that we can continue to move forward. Because of course, it's not in our best interest. I would say right now we have, if I don't know if how real I can be, but we have the white man versus the white man. It's not, and we're a byproduct of what that looks like oftentimes. That does not necessarily mean that we can't continue to move forward with this. It just means that we have to make a decision. We can't just keep saying that our lives, our vote does not matter because it's not directly affecting us. But if we're a byproduct of that affection, then it's just on our end, it's even worse than what it looks like to them. And so me just saying that I'm going to choose, at least I make the decision of what can happen moving forward. And I also know that there are elected officials in place that are continuing to move forward with that position underneath the Democratic Party.
Again, as a disclaimer, BMC is a nonpartisan entity, but, I hear what you're saying as far as like, you making that decision to utilize your tool, which is voting, but also empowering others in your community to vote, and also be aware of who are those respective leaders and where they stand on issues that are impacting our communities. Absolutely. Stephanie, I see you ready. So what are some things you're doing? I know you're busy, so.
Yes. So I just want to share a couple of resources. My goal is, to keep learning and keep sharing, and keep growing and keep sharing my growth and helping other people to grow. And, as a very basic thing, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and my organization, all of our Black Greek letter organizations, our Divine Nine organizations are out here working, to make sure that we get ourselves to the polls. So don't ever sleep on the fact that there is still groundwork being carried out, as it always is. That has not stopped. But I still want to emphasize the technology. We have to utilize technology for our own liberation. I just had a conversation on Forbes the Culture's Culture Talk with Sinclair Skinner, who's the co-founder of I Love Black People. And that entity exists to educate and inform as well. One of the things that I learned about is they have a smart T-shirt that has a code on it, like the little code that you can scan.
QR code, yeah.
Yes, look, I can't ever get that right, but yes, it
I
has
mix
the
it up too.
code.
That's my first time actually getting it right. Okay.
Yes, you here to back me up. So that you can
Jesus.
scan it and it will give you information about voting. I mean, I just thought it was a
Mm.
phenomenal thing, and then there's also the iwillvote.com website that you can click on to help yourself make a voting plan. And just, that commitment to remain educated and inform ourselves on like what's going on, who's, up for election, what, amendments or what initiatives are being voted on, making sure that we take responsibility for, again, what kind of future we want and how do we want to express our will, and can we go to bed at night, after election day is over, knowing that we did everything that we could to create the society for ourselves that we deserve. So I did want to, just make sure that I shared those resources, and the I Love Black People, that is so much more to it than just that component about the smart t-shirts. So I would suggest that people sign up for that anyway. But that is really a great tool and resource, and iwillvote.com as well.
Awesome. That's great. I love that idea of, you scan the shirt and then you can get information. Is it by by state, or is it specific to the place, the organization that printed I Love Black People? Is it specific to the state in which they're based out of? Like, how does that work?
I don't think it's specific because he indicated that there was a real emphasis, especially on the battleground states. So I don't want
Oh,
to speak out of turn and say for certain what it is, but I imagine if I'm in Tennessee and I have a shirt in Virginia, I doubt, as technologically advanced as this company is, that they would give me a resource that I can't use. So
mm,
I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be
yeah.
specific to where you are so that it's an actual resource, because
I
there
love
that
that.
company's whole work is around making sure that there are tools and resources and technology, to advance and liberate in the way that we've done in
Mm.
other ways, but have underutilized technology to do so.
I love it. That is dope. That is a
Yeah.
awesome, awesome resource. Well, you shared several. Thank you. You and y'all are just going in. All right, sis Park. What you got? What you working on? I know you working out here. Like literally, you're working right now. Actually.
I believe that voting is a right that we practice. And because we have to practice it, sometimes just like when you're practicing for sports or your piano, it's different. Sometimes you hit the right note, sometimes the key is off, sometimes you kick the ball, sometimes you fall flat. And so, Georgia, unfortunately, law abiding wise, has fallen flat in every kind of practice possible. So we are trying to shore up some of those voting rights, as you spoke to, Stephanie, here in Georgia. So what we have been telling folks is if you missed the October 5th deadline to register to vote for the November election, well, there's a December election in Georgia and a January election. So still register. You
Mm,
might have fumbled the ball then. Pick it up and let's keep moving.
mm,
We also sponsored legislation to not only let 17 and a half year olds register to vote, but we're trying to push it closer to them being able to actually cast a ballot. Now, this is going to take a long legal road, but what we know is that the 4 million folks who turn 18 and who are able to vote in this election want their colleagues to vote with them because they have experienced the same atrocities at the hands of people like this who we have to do that thing for. Okay, I'm sorry. Last piece is we have created an organization
mm,
called the People's Uprising. And it really came out of this reclaiming the narrative. Because sometimes people will say, oh, they're protesting, oh, they're rallying, oh, they're breaking stuff up. No, this is the people's uprising. And so, with people uprising, that means that it includes those who have been impacted by police brutality, like the family of Rayshard Brooks, who was killed
mm,
here at the Wendy's in June, like the family of Jamarian Robinson, who was killed back in 2016 in Atlanta, and there still is no justice. So we're trying in the ways that we can to make sure that if folks want to discredit the way that we talk about our uprising, that we have tangible solutions. We asked our county to create a new website. Our county is called Fulton. So FultonElections.com. Literally, That has helped because now we've been able to go to Outfront Media, the billboard company, and say, put up some of these that say fultonelections.com, and to bring that a lot closer to home. We do not want to have to do what we did already last year, which was draw up a piece of legislation to abolish our entire county elections board. But we will do it again if we keep fumbling the ball in this voting practice.
Wow. It's going down in Georgia. Listen. Parker's like, listen, we ain't here for it. We gonna figure out a way to make things work. But absolutely. Y'all hit on some very such key points, right? The piece that you're talking about, Diaj, as far as like owning your vote, making sure that, showing up, empowering others to vote so you can have the leadership that is willing to address issues in communities. Most certainly connecting with organizations like you talked about, Stephanie, with resources. I love Black people. I love that smart T-shirt, and then of course highlighting the Black Greek organizations that are on the ground doing work, and then Park, what you're talking about as far as keeping folks empowered through the People's Uprising, but also, you honed on something where it's like, if you miss the deadline, don't give up, because there's still other elections besides the November elections. And I think that's really important. And it goes to something you said, Stephanie, earlier, that there's elections all down the ballot, from federal all the way down to state and local. And elections are all year round, right? It's not just simply in November. There's constantly elections. And I appreciate you lifting up that point, Park, that even if you miss the deadline, there are other elections that are coming. So, cast your vote. Which takes me to my next question for all of you. And that is, so the name of tonight's program is What's Your Voting Plan? So we thought it might be important to ask y'all, so what is your voting plan, right? As I shared earlier, I actually plan to early vote in person. And again, usually in my family, I'm the one that, folks come to and say, hey, Leah, so what's going on? Where we voting at? What time? Like, when it's supposed to happen? What's my polling place? I know I ain't the only one. Love the family and friends, but that's part of our culture. We have that conversation. And here at BMC, we're trying to foster that, again, to make us take those ideas in our head around that we know we want to vote, but actually making it real and concrete by actually making a real plan. So again, my question to whoever wants to jump in: what is your voting plan? And why is that important to you? Who wants to jump in first? I see you, Stephanie. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm good. So I plan to early vote, and I plan to time it with, our district here has flipped learning days on a certain day of the week, which means that virtual school happens on 4 days of the week, and one day of the week they have a flipped day, which means that they get all these assignments that the parents have to do with them, but they don't have to be on virtual school. So that provides the perfect opportunity for them to go and not have to miss, any of their instructional time, and be a part of that process. One of my twins told me that she was voting for Barack Obama, and I told her, you can't vote for Barack Obama. So let me explain to you who Kamala Harris is, and I know just all different things that were going on, to help her understand a little better about the reality of who's on the ballot and what her options were. And so I just love the fact that at 7, they are interested in what is going on, and they feel that they have a voice. So I want to make sure that, and we have voted with them always. So I want to make sure that I continue that tradition with our children. But then also, I plan to early vote because on election day, I want to get out and engage with voters. It's a little bit different this time because of the pandemic. But I still want to be present, even if people just see me encouraging and applauding them for lifting up their voices. And again, another part of my plan is also to monitor the situation and make sure that there's no voter intimidation whatsoever, and that I'm providing resources to voters to ensure that if they see that, they know where to report it so that it can immediately be stopped and that people can be held accountable. So I have kind of a multifaceted approach to my voting plan to make sure that I'm covering my bases as an individual, as a mother, as the elected Commonwealth attorney, and as a public servant.
I'm just here for it. Okay. He was like, I ain't playing no games. I'm here for it. Absolutely. Park, you want to jump in? What is your voting plan and why is that important to you?
My plan is to, just like you said, Leah, to march to the polls. I was so privileged to, back in 2016, when I was telling you the story of running for office, to be mentored by Congressman John Lewis. And him and I held hands, marched to the polls, and voted in
Mm,
2016. So we are recreating that march today in his legacy. It will
nice.
take place on this coming Saturday because we have statewide Saturday voting. And I got to be honest, I have never Saturday voted before. So
Mm,
I want to see what it's like. I know that I am voting because I want to make history, not repeat it. And we have some important races. We have two United States Senate seats here in Georgia. One of those seats is being run about with my personal pastor, the pastor of Dr. King's church, Raphael Warnock, running for that seat in the second, one of my close millennial friends. Of course, we're 16 seats away from flipping the Georgia House of Representatives where I work and reside. And so we would be able to vote more on voting rights and reproductive rights. But at the end of the day, when we're all tired about talking about candidates, there are questions on Georgia's ballot. No matter where you live in Georgia, we have some statewide constitutional amendments and referendum. One of them is $30,000 for affordable housing and is one
mm.
of the bills that we got passed under our Republican governors. So I look forward to marching, on Saturday at State Farm Arena with my team, which will be my best friend from middle school, one of my family members, and as well as some of the People's Uprising members.
Nice. Nice. Yes, please share that. Definitely would love to see that on. So are y'all gonna record that? Is it gonna be live? The whole Oh yeah. Nice. Go on and tag us on it. We want to watch. We want to tune in. Yes, absolutely.
Thank
That's
you. Yeah,
great.
that'll be 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Okay. Perfect. I'm making note of that. We definitely want to get that out there. Absolutely. Diaja, for you, what is your voting plan and why is that important to you?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to make it like a normal day for me. I'm just gonna go to work, get off work, and go to the polls, and obviously observe what's going on around me to see what type of barriers I seen in my polling location, or what type of good things that I seen in my polling location. To share that information with other people that I know that will be voting throughout that day.
Okay. I'm hearing that, observing, trying to make sure there's not any things going down that are counter to folks being able to cast their vote. Okay, like I said, y'all out here working. I knew it wasn't, y'all was sitting on the sidelines. Oh no. Okay, so my my last question for all of you is, so when thinking about our current political climate, right? And there's a lot going on, not just with the elections, but just things that we are seeing and experiencing in our communities locally and nationally and globally. And so my question for y'all is, what beyond just the elections, what are your recommendations around actions that we can take in our communities to ensure that we can advance equity, right? Because, a lot of times folks, when you ask them, make sure you make a voting plan, we often like to talk about why it's important, right? Even not just for the election, but beyond the election. Like, what are we doing this for? Like, what is the purpose? And so I'd love to hear from you. What are your recommendations around actions that we can take in our communities beyond the election to ensure that we advance equity? So I don't know who wants to jump in on that first. Okay, I see you, Diaja. Okay, you
Yeah, I'm
ready?
gonna go
Okay.
first because I'm not elected, and my answer might not be
Hey,
as
listen, it ain't about just being elected. Listen,
yeah.
okay? There's
Yes. So,
multifacetedness. So yeah, so what's your recommendations or actions? What do
um,
you Yes.
I certainly believe that as a Black community, we have to start doing more research. I see too often now on social media is that people are just reading headlines or just reading what the news has said after things have happened and not even done their own research as far as listening to what people have to say. Because I feel like right now what we're dealing with in the Black community is that we're not agreeing with one another based upon what is being observed by other people's reporting. And so I would say as a Black community, we need to start listening to other Black folks and not being so quick to judge how their approach is to changing or creating a Black agenda, as much as taking some of the key things that we agree with upon what they're saying and being able to build upon that with one another. Because right now I feel so empowered. It's like I know all of these people out here are doing great work, and I'm going to continue my hardest to connect with as many people as possible because that's the road we're headed. If we can look to that, and since it's being outside of politics, I believe that's the best mind to have. Is to have a mind outside of politics, because if you only have a mind in politics, you will continue to be stuck into a box that is not created for you at the end of the day. But if we can get as many people as possible to be elected, that changes the game. And so it's like, okay, on this side, we can change the game through politics. But on this side, who's going to be those people that are ready to make things happen so that when they do happen, we can have a smooth transition and that everybody can be kumbaya together? Because I believe that that's possible. I think that there's a lot of evil people in the world, but they don't have a skin color. There's only one race, and that is the human race. And since that is true, the only thing that we can do as Black people is our part. And to me, our part is knowing that what is being done right now, no matter how you look at it, no matter if you look at the Constitution or you look at your state's Constitution, or you look at what's going on with police brutality, with racism, with headlines, right now we have to look inside of ourselves and say, which people out here are doing the work, and connect with those people and allow the people that are in politics to do what they do.
Mm, yeah. I heard several things in what your recommendations are. Absolutely. It's like, don't get so caught up in the political piece that we forget the power that we have in building community, right? And, being intentional around our leaders, and not just in elected office, but across various areas. Absolutely. Thank you so much, sis. Who wants to jump in on that question?
It's so hard to get off mute. Um, one thing that I don't think, we emphasize enough as a part of this conversation around how we actually succeed and what we need to do is we have to support each other. And that means not just, in politics or whatever, but we need to support each other in business. We need to know where the opportunities are for us to assist. And, we have to push each other towards greatness, and so one of the things, in terms of resources that we can do is there's an app called Black Culture Weekly that is a resource, around all types of things, around, elected officials, around shopping, around opportunities to support Black business, around opportunities to have Black news, opportunities to provide support for young people and students. I mean, that's just one example. But there is, we need to be telling our own stories. We need to be supporting each other's business. We need to create opportunities to generate intergenerational wealth for ourselves. That's one side. The other thing is we truly have to commit to participating at every level of government, because it's our responsibility, unfortunately, to undo the harms that have been done to our own community. And because it's not going to be undone unless we demand accountability. And so we have to serve on juries. We have to demand accountability for investment into community. We can't let, candidates go by who won't talk about housing or food, insecurity, or won't talk about how we expand access to education and remove, and end the school to prison pipeline and end mass incarceration, and then carry that conversation forward into how to invest. And again, create those opportunities to build intergenerational wealth. And so, I don't even have enough time to scratch the surface on how important, you know, jury service and all these other engagements are. But just suffice it to say that we have to stay alert, we have to stay educated, we have to educate and inform each other, and we have to utilize all the resources and tools available to us, especially those that are created for our collective liberation.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to do a shameless plug. Our good sister Stephanie Morales is also an author. She has written a book. It is absolutely wonderful. It's a children's book called Why I Became a Lawyer. Check it out on Amazon. And thinking about how we support, yes, pull up, support our sister, because, one of the things that we hear all the time is that if we see it, we can become it, right? And so representation absolutely matters, not just in politics, but across the board. And so our good sister just wrote this book. It's a children's book, and I love it. So absolutely appreciate you doing that, sis. Park, for you, sister, what are your recommendations on actions we need to take beyond just the 2020 elections? What is your suggestions?
Well, congratulations, Stephanie. That is awesome. And I look forward to supporting that and talking very candidly with you because I want that title, Why I Became a Boom, 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 whatever.
Yes, the day I became a
The
lawyer.
day I became a, well,
Okay.
I mean to remix it, says, but I got the latter part of it right. But the point is,
Yeah.
look it up. It's available. Amazon.com. It's there.
I love us. I love us. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the difference between equality and equity.
Mhm.
It's that same conversation about Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Ugh. It's the conversation about one house is on fire, the rest of the houses are not on fire. Which one gets the water? And it becomes exhausting sometimes, but I have been energized by the way that young people are talking about it. I gotta say, millennials, even the Gen X, Gen Zs, we're all out here talking about how equity is structured in our community, what that looks like. So, even though folks might not realize it as much in the Black community, if you go to a protest and they say, women folk to the front, kids in the front, at the bottom, men stand around the side, media get on your spot, like everyone kind of get in your place, that's even equity within our own Black community. If there are trans folks there, if they're, if they want to protest but can't do that free from violence, what does that really mean? So I think there's some, equality we got to break down, some equity we got to break down, and then that internal Black equity, we got some ways to go. So I'm glad that you brought up the ideas of the Black Culture Weekly. And, I'll definitely be looking out on TikTok to see what the young folks are doing, because I feel like every day they're pushing the needle just a little bit more, saying, what about this community? What about that issue? And it's really, really great.
Yeah. I think you just honed in on something that's very important is like, again, distinguishing between equality and equity. And a couple of Movement Monday sessions a few weeks back, one of our BMC board members, Temi Bennett, who's an attorney, she actually did that an amazing like overview of the difference and why it's important to distinguish between the two in this climate and also looking ahead, because if we are really trying to not only change the narrative but the lived experiences in our communities, that we have to be pushing for equity, because that is a true step towards our collective liberation. And so absolutely, having those critical conversations in our communities, whether it's in talking about how we show up to protest and being cognizant of who is often at risk, right, when we're showing up to protest against injustice. Absolutely. Continued education. Y'all are just like phenomenal. And I know we could like continue talking like for real, for real. So I want to wrap our conversation with this last question. Just flowing just based off of what I've been hearing y'all say. My question to y'all, and I'm gonna ask you to do it in I know this is gonna feel impossible, a 30-second soundbite, right? What would you say is your call to action for the folks that are watching at home, Black millennial leaders, our allies, our overall Black community, just our communities overall, like what would you say is your call to action, right? That you want folks to take like right now? What would that be? So I'm gonna let that question marinate for a second because I know kind of going off script here, but what is your like your big call to action? All right, who wants to jump in first? Okay, Diajah, you ready? Let's
Yes.
go.
Listen. That is my call to action, is to listen. I think that what we're doing right now is we're all over the place when it comes to the trending topics and the things that are being said. But if we actually listen and read, we can get further in life.
Mm. All right. Listen and read. Okay, sis, who wants to jump in next? Call to
Hey,
action.
a lot of our folks in Georgia got arrested saying this back in 2016. Count every vote. And I just want count every vote to also be scrambled. Every vote counts. Because the
Mm.
first time I ran for office, there were 55,000 people eligible, 22,000 were registered, 1,000 showed up. So 23 votes decided the election.
Wow.
Every vote counts. So count every
Yes.
vote.
Yes, Park. Y'all that listen, y'all giving me goosebumps. Okay, come on, Stephanie. I know you about to go on bring the congregation in. Come on now.
No, I just want to provide the summation in true lawyer fashion of the things that I said in 30 seconds. So I need you to commit to, utilizing all those tech resources. Go to iwillvote.com, go to iloveblackpeople.com, go to blackcultureweekly.com, sign up. That's the easy part. Sign up, opt in for all of those things. Boom, get that out the way so that you're engaged with the global community who's trying to do this work of collective liberation for Black people. Boom, that's easy. Then I want everybody to expand on creating a voting plan. Once you create that voting plan, I want you to create an engagement plan for yourself of how you're going to engage going forward, how you're going to commit to making sure that your clerk of court is sending you your jury questionnaire so that you can serve as a juror or asked to be a grand juror so that you could be making the decisions like on the Breonna Taylor case. I want you to, commit to an engagement plan on how you are going to get everybody around you to engage, make sure that they vote, make sure that they are holding their elected officials accountable, and that you commit to engaging with an organizing group in your locality, like New Virginia Majority here in Virginia, or some of the other organizing entities, whatever you have in your area. I want you to commit to engaging without fail. And as Diajah said earlier, I don't want you to count out the value in your service as a potential elected official as well. So I hope that was 30 seconds. But I
Hey,
want, a
I want to keep
commitment.
count. I just say that, that.
Yeah, but I want us to hit it hard. We got so much work to do and we can do it together.
Absolutely. So I will wrap it with my call to action. My first one is join our BMC team with Motivote, right? We want to make it very simple for you in regards to making your voting plan with 15 days to the election. And I'm still just processing like, wow, it's the election is literally 2 weeks away. So again, join our BMC Motivote team. Great opportunity to help, create accountability as it relates to your voting. My other call to action, very similar to everyone else, continue to educate yourself. And also, I'd say take care of yourself. There's a lot going on. We're still in the midst of a pandemic. It is so important that as we're doing the good work, that we're also taking care of ourselves. So joy is a form of resistance. So please find joy wherever you can that's healthy, that is good for you and the community. And again, my last thing I will also say is that if you don't follow us already, please make sure you follow us on all our social media accounts, Black Millennial Convention. I want to thank all of all the esteemed panelists. Y'all are just awesome. And I appreciate all the great work y'all are doing. If folks don't already, please make sure you follow these sisters on their social media. They're doing phenomenal work, not just during this time, but they've been out here. They're not new to this, they're true to this. So I had to just drop that little line in there, but it's the truth. And, again, we will be back next week with our next installment of BMC Movement Mondays, where we're going to dig into how we can own our vote. And I just love how all of y'all have just given some key pieces that is going to be so critical and actually lead up to what we're going to talk about in Owning Our Vote, which is going to be a part of our next Movement Monday session. With that, thank you all again so much for tuning in. And remember, 15 days to the election. Make sure you make that plan, implement it, as our good sisters have said, and bring others with you. So thank you, everybody.
We love you, Leah. You did great.
Yes, vote early day. Yes. Yes. First of all, Park, I'm here